Test. Testing, 1, 2. Right there. Right there, Darren. Like half a foot. 1, 2. Yeah.
So you were
So
saying.
leaning in, you're going to create.
Here we go.
Maybe mute yourself while you're not talking there, Steve.
Certainly.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the special finance meeting of January 14th, 2025. The District of Metchosin sits on the traditional territory of the Shaanu and Sauk First Nations. We thank them for sharing this land. Please be sure to have your cell phones turned off during the meeting. As many of you will have discovered, we have new speakers and, well, actually new mics going into the speakers. Oh. So when you speak at the mic, the rule of thumb seems to be about 8 to 12 inches away and speak directly to the mic as opposed to sideways. We'll do our best here as well at the table. We will have a technician coming in within the next 2 weeks to sort of recalibrate things as we learn how to work with the new equipment. So thank you very much for your patience on that. Committee, we also have Councillor Gray on the conference call with us today. So he is underneath his mic by way of telephone. Welcome, Councillor Gray. Hope you're feeling a little bit better. No answer.
Are you there, Steve?
Okay, so we will try to get him online. So we have an agenda before us for the finance meeting today to discuss the capital budget. Looking for any additions or changes. We do have 2 pinks from some neighbors that wrote in, so we will add that in as well.
Thanks, Shelley.
Oh, thank you. Good. You're there. Okay.
Maybe I'll say hello.
Hello. Good. Thanks.
Hi, Tina.
Okay.
Can you hear me there?
We can, yes. Okay, so
Hi,
okay.
Tina, you still there?
Yep, we can hear you. We're just going to move along with the meeting here.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Okay,
Move adoption with the addition of the pinks.
thank you. Seconder? Seconded by Councillor Abt, moved by Mayor Little. All in favor? Carried, thank you. Okay, so we have public participation. So at the previous budget meeting, I recused myself during the discussion on the Hall Bridge topic to maintain consistency. Since that time, I've consulted with my legal counsel and have clarified that I'm only required to recuse myself during the Finance Committee discussions. Specifically today, it will be during the discussion on Hall Bridge. And at that point, I will ask Mayor Little to chair the meeting. Please note that all comments made during public participation will be heard by the Finance Committee and will be taken into consideration. So with that, I ask you, anyone that's interested, to speak at the mic with your name and your street, please. Welcome.
Jim McPherson, Eagle Tree Place. I just have 4 or 5 observations to make with regard to the proposed capital budget. The first one is that the Herald Engineering report on the Flesh Road project seems to have put paid to any idea that the bridge can be successfully used to provide egress in the case of emergency. I also wonder, however, if work on the Flesh Bridge is required, just exactly who is it that is paying for the removal and replacement of the terrace and gas line. It's not clear from what I was reading. Since this is all about process, I think that dealing with the server issue is more important than dealing with a new electric vehicle, recognizing that it is 20 years old, but should probably be deferred in place of the server. It seems that not all capital projects are included here. For example, Duke Road East. Are those projects which are totally conditional upon the receipt of funding included, or are they separately considered altogether? I also just wanted to flag, I suppose, the prospects in terms of the future. Trump's proposal with regard to tariffs look as though they are going to materialize. BC finances will be directly impacted because of the software issue. These will result in revenue shortfalls added to the province's already heavy debt load and may lead to significant cutbacks next year and years subsequent to municipal and other grants. I just hope that none of that arises, but I think it is something we all have to be aware of. Thank you.
Thank you.
Penny Ray Scher, 995 Ferncliff Place. I'm here to speak on maybe 2 matters I didn't realize, but I will start with Flesh Road. And in case there was any doubt, I think we've solved that, raised about in prior meetings, that who is actually the owner of that bridge. And in case you haven't been able to find it, out who's the actual ownership, which no doubt is the municipality, the district. So we can alleviate that question, I hope, out of future discussions. The second is about the fire risk. We're all sitting in a time where we're watching our TVs in horror about the fires in LA. And the number 1 loss of life I'm reading, and I actually downloaded a few, took screenshots, is one-way in roads, one-way out roads. People are trapped behind not only the fire, but the fire equipment. And I've been there, trapped behind. I never had to leave, we just hunkered down. But 3 times we've had fires on Ferncliff and Pine Mountain where nobody could get past the fire trucks that are there. We have an access, we have an egress, And I understand that the fire chief hasn't even mentioned it in her fire safety or exits on any, I haven't found it, maybe it's in there, but that has been there for 30, 40 years. I think 1994, it started to be a requirement to have that access for us to leave during a fire. So I really hope that gets upgraded in the next fire chief's reports. But if they don't want to use it, actually I've been thinking over Christmas, that's great for us. Now we know we won't be plugged. We can go over that easement in our, that the fellow has. He has an easement. We get across the bridge. We get onto Happy Valley. I can probably save my motor home. I'll be happier. I'll have a place to stay. But we know how fast those fires are moving. They're moving fast in LA. And if we don't think we have those Santa Ana wind levels, we do. And to watch that fire over at the golf course, it got put out right away. But it doesn't take much. There was no wind that day. It doesn't take much to come over Metchosin Mountain and down onto our area at all. And the number one thing, why would anybody want us to block Glen Forest Way? You see how narrow that bridge is? And they made it even narrow by putting no posts. In actuality, those no posts don't need to be there to protect pedestrians. They need a little farther up. So when you hit
Ms. Scher, into the mic, please.
When you hit the black ice and you come down, you go straight just past that metal, the electrical boxes there, and into the creek. So if we can move those nose posts, make that bridge wider, it'll be safer for fire trucks. I faced a school bus. All I could do is when I got around the corner, coming from this direction, I could just close my eyes, I'm in my lane, and know I have a dash cam, and if he hits me, it's his fault. But he cannot cross that bridge in one lane. It's too narrow. But if we took those no posts and just rearranged them a little safer for ice, that would be much better. I can get my motorhome in right now.
Thank you, Mrs. Scher.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can I just say one more thing on a different subject, just quickly?
Your time is up. There will be an opportunity to speak again after we have our deliberations over the budget.
But that's the concern is, Shelley, you recused yourself, but we're about to talk about a water tower that 3 members
Point
of
of order.
the council.
Yeah.
We're finished. Thank you.
Sorry. Thank you. Thank you very much. Councillor Donaldson, thanks very much for making sure we abide by the timelines with public participation. If we don't, we just begin to lose control of all the meetings. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else like to have a comment as we get started?
Oh, push the button.
It was already on. You can turn it on. You just turned it off. Yeah. Red light is on. There you
Okay.
are. You're good. Go ahead.
And it was left on. Okay. June Reimer,
Yes, go ahead.
4730
The green
Marydale
light's
Road.
on.
Pardon?
You're ready to go.
Okay. I don't actually have specifics because I haven't been to the last couple of meetings. I see there's some printouts. I know my concern is regarding the school, the old Metchosin School. And it's funny because what Jim brought up was what I was thinking all the way here. I would really like some data on the specifics. I think it's great we own the school. I think we need to hold on to the school. But I would really like to know what we've paid, what we still owe, what our mortgage terms are, how long it's amortized for, what it's looking to be at its new percentage, and what we're actually making on the school. Because I don't feel it's being run properly. I'm not sure how it's being run or who. It seems to keep changing. It's not a complaint, it is a concern that I have. I'm really concerned about it. I've always been on top of our mortgage, my husband and I. We always knew what our finances were. We paid things down as fast as we could. As I was driving here, I was thinking, wow, everything I turn on is what's going to happen to us with Trump and Elon Musk. And it's very serious. And we are already in tough times in climate. And insurance, and so on and so forth. We're complaining already that our taxes are going up. We are actually an economy, a country that is aging, and there are things, well, just like the bridge you're talking about, whether it's a necessity or not, a lot of infrastructure is beginning to go. And so there are going to be new expenses, and I really want to know how we're managing here with what we have, what our payments are, and in particular in terms of the school. A point aside on that one, it is awesome that Wanda Fuca is using the school. That's what we need. We need a lot more of things like that. We also need to know and designate, I've mentioned before, the patchwork quilt of how the school is going. I disagree with putting fancy gardens out front and opening new doors until we know what we're making and how we can make more. I think pickleball is doing a great thing. Wanda Fuca, I'm really sad to find that I found out about it very last minute. It's the sort of thing that it would be great if that happened again, that we put it up on the community house bulletin board or the fire hall so that we advertise when we've got something going with the school. That just might be something to make note of. It turned out that the classes look pretty good. Actually, I think people are going to come because the room is too full, so we might have to juggle use with the gym, which is also sometimes busy at that time. But just, yes, can we have something concise about what we're making from the school and where we're sitting in terms of how the economy is changing? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon and Happy New Year. I'm here today as president of the Metchosin Community Association. On Friday, I had a chance to speak with CAO Payette after our board meeting on Thursday in regards to the parking lot that we've been talking about for accessibility. And I'm here to let you know that our board is adamant that it is something that the municipality is responsible in regards to the upgrade of the parking area in section 7 of the operating agreement. It states major maintenance, repairs, and improvements shall be the responsibility of the district, subject to funding availability. And with what we're doing here, we are asking that you help us with providing the accessible funding, the accessible parking spaces. I know the community association, we have been fundraising a lot, and we have some pretty healthy bank accounts, but what we're doing with those funds is a number of different things. First of all, we have some interior maintenance and capital projects that we're working on in regards to lighting and technology. And we're also looking at ways that we can use the funds that we are generating for ourselves, because we are self-sufficient. We don't ask the municipality for anything for operating or just something like this as a capital project. And most of the times we actually do fund our own capital projects within the building itself. So what we're asking for is for your help to be able to provide us with the accessible parking spaces. I can promise you we are using our money wisely. We are finding ways that we can give it back to the community, whether it's in programs or whether it's in providing sponsorship for space for community organizations that are coming in. I'm happy to go over some of those details if you'd like a little bit more information, but in the end, the request to have the parking spaces done is the responsibility of the municipality to make those upgrades. Of course, our volunteers will assist as much as possible. I know that the contractor has worked very hard to secure a lot of the materials at a discounted rate, as well as that they will be donating their services themselves. So this is, it's a community thing. I do understand from speaking with CAO Payette, the Public Works will also be involved in helping with this project as well. So it will be good when it's finished. We'll actually have a place that we can have the accessibility that we need. As you know, we have the VHA program. They have a bus that comes and they kind of sort of maneuver themselves onto sort of the gravel area that they can bring their guests or their clients out onto. We have the Parents and Tots program. So there's a lot of things there. The afternoon tea, we've started a soup event, which actually the proceeds of that go back to the food bank. But there's a lot of seniors that come to that, and trying to traverse getting into the facility with walkers and wheelchairs and baby carriages or canes, it's difficult. So we're hoping this will allow us to be able to provide that safe space for our guests. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Darren Brown, Graceland Road. So I speak today about the financial direction of our municipality, particularly as it pertains to our heavy reliance on grant funding. We are entering an age of austerity. The signs are clear. The provincial government has frozen hiring. The federal government is likely going to change, and the incoming parties are signaling significant belt tightening. Add to this the looming threat of a 25% tariff from the United States, which would have far-reaching economic repercussions, and it becomes evident that we must brace ourselves for leaner times ahead. In this environment, it's imperative that our municipality is not the last to recognize these economic realities. As stewards of Metchosen's limited tax base, Council has a responsibility to ensure every dollar is spent is done so with care and foresight. This is not a time for ambitious spending plans based on uncertain grants or speculative future revenues. We must acknowledge the risks inherent in relying on external funding sources and grants that could be curtailed or withdrawn altogether. If grant funding dries up, the burden of projects will fall squarely upon the shoulders of our already stretched taxpayers. In a small community like ours, with no commercial tax base to share the load, this becomes unsustainable. To safeguard Metchosen's financial health, I urge Council to take the following actions. Prioritize fiscal prudence. Only absolutely critical projects should be considered. Any discretionary spending should be shelved. Reassess spending priorities. This is an opportunity to revisit spending priorities across the board, ensuring we focus on essentials and defer non-urgent expenditures. Fiscal discipline today will help us weather economic challenges ahead. We can also strengthen community engagement. It costs nothing to engage with your community. Engage with residents openly about the economic challenges we face and the tough decisions required. And transparency. Transparency builds trust, and that ensures the community understands the necessity of fiscal responsibility. So we're at a crossroads. Council has the opportunity and the responsibility to lead with fiscal prudence and long-term vision. Let's ensure that Metchosen remains not just sustainable, but thriving in the years ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak?
Good evening, Tamara Ballard, Chosen resident. I'm here to talk about the bridge. I have a question. So last meeting, the mayor had said that Winter Road Bridge is in worse shape than Flesh Road Bridge. We just heard a resident say that Glen Forest Bridge is less than adequate. And yet, those bridges are traversed all day by public. And here we are focusing on a bridge for in case there might be a fire. You can still walk down it. We don't all need to take our motorhomes. So I guess what I'm going to ask is that maybe we take a step back from a bridge that is in case and look at bridges that are used every day, all day, and maybe reevaluate the priority of what needs to be done first.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Brent Donaldson, Chalister Court and Flesh Road property owner. First, I'd like to thank CAO Payette and CFO Creek for moving forward with this project. The Hull Bridge has required maintenance and repairs for over 16 years, and nothing has been done, so I thank you, sirs. Council's already heard over the last several years how this access affects our property and our farming activities. Interesting enough, the trend was set in 2022 with a narrative, and a lot of that was misinformation. Everything from the road, when it terminates at the Galloping Goose Trail, that the bridge isn't safe for use by fire apparatus, that the restricted gate was locked, that the culvert on the right-of-way was unsafe, and the only practical way to evacuate citizens and residents from Ferncliff is to walk out. Certainly that is not practical or feasible. One doesn't have to look too far, as one of my neighbors said. Having one way in and one way out does not work. FireSmart Canada recommends 2 means of egress and access. So if somebody's looking into that, I'm sure you can find that online. The right-of-way that is on Lot 10 at the end of Ferncliff Place, it is a registered right-of-way in favor of the district, and it was part of the subdivision plan in 1997, and you have those documents in front of you. The CAO, Mr. Malott, the fire chief, Laurie Spears, and the chief surveyor, Danny Carrier, were well ahead of their time. Here we are 30 years later and a climate emergency, and those fellows, unfortunately 2 of them have passed, to me actually were big thinkers. The distance between the Ferncliff cul-de-sac and Flash Road is only a few hundred feet. Any intentions are not debatable. It's on land title and it's part of a subdivision, and those neighbors know that. When it comes to funding, when the Honorable Mitzi Dean attended a council meeting on March 6, 2023, Councillor Sherry asked the question, what sort of projects could be used in this $2.4 million grant? First was a public safety building, the second bridges. And I might note that Mitzi Dean is a resident of Metchosin and probably enlightened by the happenings that are taking place here on a daily basis. Previous councils and staff, namely the mayor, suggested that I buy the bridge for $1. What does that look like? I take responsibility for a gas line, a water line, emergency access, people walking in and back and forth on the Galloping Goose Trail. Am I going to assume liability for that? Not likely. 18 of the 19 households in Ferncliff Place signed a petition equaling 33 folks. And half of those people have submitted letters in the last 2 years. On March 14, 2023, there was a presentation by Dr. Thomas Homer Dixon talking about climate change. One of the speakers at the end of the evening said, and actually another Metchosin resident, Dr. Werner Kurtz, I believe he lives just down here on William Head Road, senior researcher for the forestry ministry on Burnside. One of the biggest risks to Metchosin is fire. We have fire load and we have winds. In closing, you've heard from the property owners of Ferncliff Place, including myself. There may be the odd person in this audience that doesn't believe fire safety to our residents is important, but certainly I do, and I hope you do the same. Also, I would like to support the bulk water station. I believe everybody in Metchosin should be availed clean, potable water. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other residents who would like to have a comment?
Good afternoon, Mike Ballard, a Chosen resident. I was just reading up and I noticed that you guys are planning on buying a new electric car, replacing your Chevy van. I was just wondering, how much does the Chevy van actually cost you per year to maintain? Is it just replacing it because it's old? Because if we're doing that, a lot of us will be on the plate soon too. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no one else, I will now, we'll move on to the reports for this afternoon. And on page 3 is the staff report for the 2025 to 2029 capital budget. And I'll ask CFO Creek if he could present, please.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, through the chair. So this is the 6th meeting, this wonderful thing, starting a new year. Going through questions from the December 5th meeting I got from council there. In regards to the bulk water station, they were wondering what reserve to use or grants to pay for it. Going through everything, the best one still is the climate action programming funding. There is a deadline to use that funding. Just got an extension, but it has to be used by 2026. And then the money that we received in 2024 has to be used up by the end of 2028. Number 2, Flesh Road Bridge. So everybody knows different values from the reports in 2022, 2023, 2024. The 2024 report that we're basing everything off of didn't include the cost for removal of the water gas line. So I took those costs from the 2022 report, add those on, and that's why the deactivation cost is now $375,000. But I guess towards that end as well is that because the costs keep changing year after year, after we keep going back to the engineers for it, propose that rather than approving the spending of anything, just approve that the district gets a tender from the people who are actually going to construct and remediate the bridge. So we get actual quotes from the people who are doing it rather than relying on the people that just run numbers at a desk. And that way we can find out what the actual cost is going to be. Then we can bring that back to council once we have the tenders, and then go from those costs and approve or disapprove that expenditure. Next up was community house lots or resurfacing. So we've confirmed the area. It's going to be 4 parking stalls worth. That would be done with either concrete or paving. We do have to ask the ALC as to whether or not they would approve that because of where we are. The planner indicated that that would take about 60 days to receive a decision. And then the bottom note, Kira talked about that, requested. They feel it's the municipality's responsibility, and under the agreement it is. Number 2, or number 4, I guess, school septic tank site. So the original quote there was just for the tank, and talking to the engineer, he says everything's working fine with the septic field itself. We should have at least another 10 years of use, and he estimates the future cost to be $133,000 to replace that. So same engineer though says we do need to be flushing that field every 5 years. Last time was in 2020, so we're going to put into the operating budget for this year the cost to do a flushing there. And then road work. There's some confusion about the roads I put down. Totally my bad. The Marydale Road to Rocky Point Road is meant to cover all of Marydale Road, and then the portion of Tiswell Road to Rocky Point Road from the end of Marydale. The Lindholm Road project starts at Happy Valley Road and goes up to Lee Field Road. The Metchosin Road project is going to start at Briarwood Lane and goes to the Colwood border, and they'd also do the Briarwood Lane itself, just because it is in the road project map done by the engineers recently. It's supposed to be done in about 3 years. Public Works says it's just better to do the Briarwood Lane at the same time that we're going to be paving that, just so they don't have to rip anything up in the future. And then we've removed Bob Law Place from the capital spend for 2025, just pushing that off into a future year, 26, 27, 28. And then further discussion with the Public Works Supervisor said that it's looking like we should be replacing more culverts. He's estimating about $50,000 for each of the next 5 years. That would replace about 5 culverts each. We do have a big one that's in this capital plan for next year for the Neil Road culvert. That's $250,000. That's a much bigger culvert, much more engineering work that our public works staff themselves can't do. So, I don't know, any questions at this moment?
Councillor Shukin.
Sorry, through you, Councillor Donaldson. A few questions to Mr. Creek. Mr. Creek, thank you very much for the report. And just, I'm going to quiz you on a few things here. So the Climate Action Reserve, can you indicate, so you've indicated that funds have come in to it and then we have to use them by a certain date. But can you let us know what the total is right now in the Climate Action Fund? I mean, there's some math that I can probably do myself, but.
Yeah, so we're sitting at 119,000 at the end of 2023. And then we received 217,000, so I think it's about 336 in total. And then some of those funds were allocated towards a heat pump that were purchased this year, so it'll be down a little bit. So, say probably around 310 if you take off those heat pumps that we purchased this year. Then 175 off to the bulk water station. So, yeah, about 35.
Okay, sounds good. I have a few questions. Do you want me to just run through them now? Or?
Well, if you're going to discuss bulk,
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah,
Hull
Fletcher,
Bridge, you'll need to
yeah.
let me know.
Yeah.
I'll need to recuse myself.
Okay.
Or that could be when we go through the
Yeah, I
sheets.
do have a question about that, so maybe I'll just leave that to the end.
That would be
Yeah,
great. Thank
so-
you.
Okay. Refresh me if you don't mind about the community house lot resurfacing, what the cost of that is? Are we still assessing that?
So based on my discussions with Public Works, and then as Kira had mentioned, there is somebody that's willing to donate a few materials and repurpose things. So they're looking at like roughly $10,000 for the whole project. And ideally, we are going to receive a grant from Spark BC. So that money won't actually come out of our piggy bank, it'll come from somebody else.
Great. Okay. Thank you. The school septic tank site, thank you very much for the update on that. What I understand you're looking at doing is putting away money into a reserve so when the day comes for replacement, we're well stocked up for that. Is that the case?
Correct. It's just
Great.
kind of shuffling money around. Like I didn't want to have it just pop up in 2030. It's like, hey, I need $110,000 right now. So rather, let's plan for $20,000 a year. We'll put that aside, pull it out of the general capital reserve itself,
Okay,
put it into a school septic tank reserve.
So you're managing the money.
Yeah, well, just move it
Okay.
around.
Okay. Yeah.
Just a journal entry.
Okay. Sounds good. And I'm sorry, I kind of blanked out there for a sec, but most of the road work you've identified here, Marydale, Lindholm, and Chosen Road, that's paving as opposed to crack and fill or
Correct.
crack and seal.
Yeah, there's only a
sealing.
little bit of crack sealing that they're going to end up doing in 2025.
Great.
All of that is fresh surface.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. Hurd.
Any other questions, Councilor Rapp?
I do want to discuss the bridge, so.
Okay, so can we
Well,
discuss
say-
that when the sheet comes up, which is going to be shortly?
Sure.
It looks like it's
That's
the
fine.
first on the docket.
That's fine, whatever.
Okay. Any other questions at this stage, committee? No? Okay. So, Mr. Creek, did you want to discuss anything on Schedule A before we start the request forms?
Through the chair, I've got nothing to bring up unless somebody else has a question about anything specific.
Committee, any comments on page 7 or 8? Councilor Gray, do you have any comments thus far before I leave the room?
Yes, I had a question.
Go ahead.
It's difficult to follow, to be honest, on the phone and the computer as there's a lag time, but I hope I'm at the right point.
Go ahead.
I wondered, I was looking at the roof costs. They seem quite high for the size of the roof and the slope of the roof. And maybe my question, I was thinking about a shingle roof, high quality shingle roof, and I think it might be about half the cost. I just wanted to confirm with the CFO that we would be seeking competitive bids so to be sure that we don't overspend on that, what seems like a necessity.
Through the chair, yep, we'd be putting out a tender, getting at least three quotes for the roof project, and then maybe not taking the lowest one, but certainly the one with best quality and greatest warranty to help us out.
That sounds good. And then will we pick up each of these topics in a little bit, Councillor Donaldson, or I wanted to ask about the van as well. Is now the time?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, a comment was made by Mike Ballard, and I too had the same question about the present use. How frequently is the van used, like the kilometers in the last year? I've not seen it out, but perhaps it is going out. And then are we spending a lot on maintenance? So my first question was, and perhaps not, maybe it's for discussion, I'm not sure, but the need for a vehicle replacement. I expect we do reimburse staff or others who might use the van, you know, on mileage on their personal vehicles. So it's just a question about, does it need to be replaced? Are we using it a lot right now?
Through the chair, I can't speak to the mileage. I don't know if we keep track of that. I don't know if insurance has that kind of documentation. I don't know if we actually have a logbook in there. But it does go out weekly, bi-weekly basis. Like the CAO will take it out. Like I'll take it out to meetings in Victoria with the CRD and that type of thing. But constant daily use, certainly not. In 2024, we did have to spend close to $2,000 on repairs and maintenance on it. The alternator and battery all died, that type of thing. Then I don't know the fuel cost off the top of my head, but it's something I could look into. It's easy to find.
Thank you.
Mayor Little, go ahead.
Yeah, regarding the van, I won't use the van because it's unreliable. I've had to go out and rescue the CAO that he's been out in the van and it's quit. So it's pretty hard to suggest to people to use it when it's unreliable. And it does break down very frequently. And I don't see any reason to have a van that we've insured to the max to have it sit there. And it is an old van, unfortunately.
Any other comments, committee, before we go into the other schedules?
I wanted to ask about the Flesh Road Bridge, but maybe I'll wait until the appropriate moment for that.
Okay, so I will recuse myself at this time as there's a perceived conflict of interest, as this is in my neighborhood.
Okay, so we'll continue. Councillor Shukin, Councillor Epp, and then Councillor Gray. You had some questions regarding the Flesh Road and Hall Bridge. Go ahead, Councillor Shukin.
Yeah, thank you very much. Just through you, Mayor Little, I will ask a question. I did just want to raise a comment, though, and staff are welcome to kick in on this as well. The question was asked earlier about why the attention on Flesh Road Bridge. And I think the simple answer to that is there are some serious, serious maintenance issues that one way or the other have to be addressed fairly quickly. And as I understand it, none of our other bridges are in that state. So we worry about the ongoing wear and tear. We worry about the potential of a high water incident. And what is interesting with this bridge is that reports have gone back. You go back and look at the documentation report, go way back, identifying the deficiencies to the bridge, and nothing's been done. It's been kicked down the road again and again. Now, whether it's in terms of safety, fire risk, access for fire suppression, etc., all those are significant issues, but the key thing around this is it is a district asset. We have to do something with it. Even the fact of not doing anything with it is in some ways doing something with it. That bridge, like all of us, will fall one day. And there is a liability that we have to anybody who's on the bridge, downstream, and I'm betting also we have that liability to the CRD and Fortis as well in terms of their assets, in terms of how the bridge may impact that. So the question again is, why is this bridge special? It's special because it does need maintenance, it does need repair. And our bridges are, as I understand it, they're inspected regularly. So I think we have a pretty good sense of that. So to Mr. Creek, I think what you are proposing is, just so I'm clear about it, is to go out to tender and actually get an actual cost of what it would take to repair the bridge. Are you also thinking about doing that in terms of deactivating as well? Or one of those?
Through the chair or mayor, not too sure how this works now. Yes, I would want to go. I mean, like, okay, tell us what it's going to cost to get this to pedestrian level, vehicular level, and then what it will also take to deactivate it. Granted, kind of because of the cost related to the water and gas, that's going to be so significant that I don't know. Kind of leave it up to council to decide whether or not you want to take a quote for that. I'm not too sure how much work that's going to be, getting the 3 different kind of quotes for it versus getting 2, or getting it up to pedestrian use versus vehicular use. But certainly whatever they can provide so that we can come back with concrete numbers that they can actually stand on and floating numbers every year.
That's it for your
I
questions?
have maybe another one, but I
go
think
ahead.
I'll just.
Yep. Okay, Councillor Epp, go ahead.
Yeah, as I spoke earlier, the numbers just really don't add up that we've had over the last few years. This year, the latest number we got was for either remediation and repair or for the pedestrian access. Both came in at $141,750. In 2022, that amount was for repair and remediation was $210,000. In 2023, our engineer gave us the number of $332,000 for remediation and repair. So wherever these figures come from, they certainly don't add up in any way, shape, or form. So I would totally agree with you that the only way we're ever going to find out for sure and be able to make a decision, because we certainly can't make a decision based on the information that we've had over the last 2 years. So I would make a motion that the staff put out a tender for the cost of the 3 options for the bridge, as well as whatever cost each would involve for the gas and water lines.
Okay.
It is a motion.
This is a motion.
Second for discussion.
This is a motion by Councillor Epp, seconded by Councillor Shukin. Go ahead, Councillor Epp. Do you want to motivate on that?
Yeah, well, just as what I said, I don't see how we can possibly make a decision based on the figures that we've had, because we really don't. I mean, they vary almost $200,000 from one to the other, and that doesn't take into account anything to do with the gas line. So, or maybe it does in there a little bit, but it's not, not really affected, and it's just too much of a variance. So I think we really, it's a lot of money, and we can't make any kind of a qualified decision on it until we really know exactly how much it is for somebody, for a construction company or a bridge building company, whoever does this kind of thing, to actually get quotes from them on really how much it actually would cost, and then we can make a decision. And if we can get that fairly soon, then we can make a decision before the budget is finalized.
Okay. Councillor Shukin.
Thanks. I'm prepared to support this. I think it's a good step. I would like to ask though staff to just inform us on what like the actual approach is. Are we going for a tender? Are we requesting like it's not an RFP I think we're looking for, but yeah. But I just wanted to be clear on what the process would be.
So through the chair, I would like request for proposals. That way we can get those say 3 quotes. Who's ever capable of doing this job in the vicinity. That way we can cover that off.
Okay.
My bad with the vocabulary.
Yeah, okay.
So yeah, RFP.
Okay. It would be great to hear from Councillor Gray as well.
Mm-hmm.
So my only hesitation with the motion is just, it'd be great to hear everyone around the table and then,
sure.
But yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Gray.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Little. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you fine.
So I share Councillor Epps' concerns. I spoke to our CFO earlier today just about that, and we were looking over some of the numbers. I think we have a little problem in terms of the consistency of the estimates we received from the engineers, and that's obvious to look at previous documents. I'm sorry to say I couldn't hear the motion, so I just want to say that I think it's important if we put out a tender that we seek 3 distinct prices from the various firms that might buy for the project. One would be deactivation of the bridge, in other words, removal. The other would be the design remediation for pedestrian equestrian bridge. And the third would be the design remediation for vehicle travel. I think a little bit of what happened in the note, so if that's confirmed, then I would support the motion. The reason being that in the notes today, we have the same price for a pedestrian equestrian bridge versus a vehicular bridge. And the previous estimates, those differed by several $100,000. So I think we need to know, especially given all the advocacy for egress for fire, we need to know if in the tender process, if people are saying that bridge is fine for pedestrians or the bridge has been fully remediated and is in shape for vehicles from here on forward. So if we could confirm those 3 options would be in the tender or in the motion. I just couldn't make out the motion, and I apologize for just technically not able to catch it.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Epple will reiterate her motion.
Yeah, the motion was for the 3 options. It was that we put a tender RFP for costs of the construction on the 3 different options, as well as the costs of any changes in the gas line or water line.
Great, thank you very much. I heard that more clearly. So I guess I'm speaking in favor of the motion simply to get the numbers clear so that we are able then to make a decision.
Okay. So what we have here is a consensus that we need more precise information before we can make an informed decision. Is everybody ready if I call the question on that? Go ahead, Councillor.
I just would ask that, again, I think what Councillor Epp stated in terms of RFP and tender gives staff leeway to go to market in the most effective way. Yeah, okay, great. I think staff are nodding. Mr. Payette is.
Perhaps I'll just get some clarification from our CAO. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you through the chair. If we want to get the best quality quotes, we would recommend that we would have the engineers put specifications in the RFP so that the quotes come in at a Class B level and not Class C, so we get as accurate of costings as we can. So that will, I believe, would be 10% of the cost of a project usually go towards the specifications for the RFP. So there'll be some costs involved with putting it out to tender to get the best possible quotes we can get on the 3 options.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? Councillor Gray, how do you vote? Say it again. Councillor Gray, are you voting in favor?
Yes, in favor. Thank you.
Okay, great. That's unanimous. Thank you. I'll turn the chair role back to the finance. I should say, is there any other questions on Flesh Road? No. Okay, good.
Thank you, Mayor Little. Okay, so we'll move on to Schedule C, which is the electric vehicle.
Right, so putting in this request, or through the chair, putting the request for a new electric vehicle, cost being $50,000. That's the most that we can pay in order to qualify for both the provincial and federal EV grants of up to $9,000. It's to replace the 20-year-old van that is outside. It is a little skeptical with you sometimes. Went in there Friday, had to turn over 3 times to get it going. I've gone in to drive one other time last year when I was in it. Bob's had his own, or CAO's had his own experiences with it. That would be kind of drive towards it. The rest of the money, we could end up using the climate action funding as well to help pay for that, since it would reduce the greenhouse gas emissions from the district itself. So it wouldn't actually require local tax dollars to go into it as a way to pay for it. What the model is, not too sure. It's kind of dependent on whether we do get approval. There were a bunch that were less than $50,000 that would still qualify for the $9,000 grants, so could easily come in under that. Any questions for that?
Councillor.
Does this require any extra money as far as a charging station for it at the office?
Through Chair. We wouldn't need one here, thankfully the CVRD is installing ones over at the community house and just next over to My Chosen Cafe. They're going to be doing that in 2025. So we'd be able to charge it there. It's not very far. And then if there was enough money with the CVRD and what they're spending in installing the new chargers here, they would be willing to install a charger here at the district hall. But we wouldn't need a specific one just because we two are so close.
So really you can, you just did say that, but so there wouldn't be any money for this coming out of tax dollars. It would all be coming from Climate Action Fund and other grants for electric vehicles.
Through Chair. Correct. Yeah, if you okayed the use of the Climate Action Funding Board, then we would take it from there. It'd still leave $95,000 in there by the end of after the bulk water station and everything else. So.
Yes, Councillor Shukin.
So thank you, Councillor Donaldson. I have to say that I have misgivings with this spend. Not that I'm very in favor of EVs and of course keeping staff mobile, but in terms of all of the spending and the projects that we're considering this year, I'm feeling like this is maybe one that we might defer for a year. That's my gut response right now, particularly in light of the server that is on the next page. At this juncture, I don't feel I'm going to be able to support the purchase of the EV right now.
I'd like to speak in agreement with Councillor Shukin. It
Go
doesn't
ahead.
seem to be a terrible big need at the moment. And I'm not sure that the climate argument is there, given the vehicle's not used very much. There'd be lower cost vehicles available. We don't need a long range EV at the moment. I would tend to want to postpone this decision.
Thank you. Do we know, for the things that have gone wrong, and we've put some money into it last year, is it fixable so that we can resell it? Or is it scrap material? Is it that bad?
Through Chair, don't have a whole lot of experience with it. I don't actually own a car myself. But I would think you'd be able to get something nowadays, right? Like used vehicles, even the super old ones still get more than what you would think they would be worth. So I would think there'd be some dollars to recoup out of it.
Okay.
What that is, not a clue.
Right. So it is a van, so it's a passenger van. It would carry more than 1 or 2 people. Do we have any use for a van in the future? So what I'm thinking is, if we're downsizing, maybe it's time that we repair it, sell it, not replace it. We've got a truck, and we also just passed not too long ago the ability to, I don't even know the terminology, but where employees could use their own vehicle and we would reimburse them. So we do have those options. For example, the building inspector. instead of using the big pickup truck, we have an option in that regard too. So we still have a vehicle we can use. So I guess my question is if, and I'm in agreement with my other two colleagues about this expenditure. However, if we have no purpose to having the van as a passenger vehicle as it is, maybe it's time to move it on, or we get it fixed. I have to say, personally, I have older vehicles that are maintained and still running, so I'm not sure why we're not investing in making sure it runs. I did see this being used by a team of our recruits in the last year or so, not this year, but where they would go to the other departments to do the recruit training. I thought that was a remarkable use of it as well. So I don't have enough knowledge on this to make a decision, but I do agree that spending $50,000 on an EV at this time, maybe we can defer it to another year, and maybe we need more information on this particular vehicle. Either we get it so that it is running, or we get it running enough that we move it on to a new owner. Councillor.
I'm just wondering, has it ever been considered, has leasing ever been an option? Ever been looked into?
Through the chair, it's generally not what a municipality does for vehicles, is to lease them, but certainly is an option we could take a look at if council.
Just if necessary. I mean, I'm not having, I mean, in our family, our newest vehicle is 21 years old, so we don't sort of used to new vehicles, but.
Okay, Councillor Shukin.
Sorry, a companion question is whether we can buy a secondhand vehicle. And sorry that you were touching on that as well, but yeah.
That's what we do in our family.
Yeah. Common sense, yes, it's going to be the
dollars just go a little further.
The mantra of the day, pretty quick here. So, thanks.
Okay, so shall we move on to the next schedule?
Okay, so our server in Town Hall here is a Windows 2012 version that is no longer supported by Microsoft or any of our software vendors. So we are no longer receiving patches or upgrades. This is a significant security risk for the district. We have a significant amount of personal information that would be vulnerable. In order to even maintain our contract with our IT provider that is expiring in June, they will not renew it unless we do have a new server, because them connecting into our server is not good for them in case there is somebody breaches it, because then they have access to their server itself. So it's really something that needs to be done sooner rather than later. And this will also facilitate our expansion of digital record keeping and moving away from all of the paper that we continue to go through every year here. It helps with our storage requirements. We've filled up our vault and our offsite storage, and if we can transition to digital record keeping, it will negate all that, save money on storage costs, and actually have legible documents rather than paper that will eventually deteriorate over 30, 40 years. Go ahead. Sorry?
Good to know, thanks. Okay, committee, Councillor Shukin.
So, through you, Councillor Donaldson. The cost of 40,000, we got that where?
Through the chair, got that from Myra, like our IT provider. So if I can get approval for this expenditure, I'll be able to get the full-on cost and estimate tomorrow from them, and then be able to get this project rolling in a couple months. Okay, so we got a cost from Myra, and then through that, we'll be able to get a brand new server that's within the last 3 years that will be good for another decade.
Okay. Councillor Shukin, another question?
Yeah, or just a comment. I agree with what Mr. Creek is saying about this being an essential. I mean, almost every week there's some sort of story about spyware, malware, ransomware being dropped into police department or a local government or a hospital or whatever. And in some ways, it's probably almost just a matter of time before it's before we're hit. So I think there's a responsibility that we have to protect people's information. And it doesn't seem like there's another option other than to keep up with the times. So.
Correct. I agree. Councillor Epp.
Yeah, I agree as well. I don't think we really have any choice in this one. It's something we have to do.
Yeah, I think it's a very good investment for our staff and our community for sure.
Yeah, I agree with everybody. I think I'll put forward a motion that we support the purchase of the server at $40,000.
Okay, motion by Mayor Little, second by Councillor Epp. Any further discussion? Councillor Gray?
Anything to say about the server, Steve?
Oh, ready to vote.
Do you have any questions?
No.
Okay, so I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you.
And I'm voting in favor.
Okay, Schedule E.
Perfect. So the next one up is the bike rack bus stop and mural. So the bike rack over at the mid-chosen map structure next to the cafe. The bus shelter that's across the road from it. This stonework at the corner of Happy Valley and mid-chosen Road. And then a request to do a mural at the farmers market / museum building. Estimated cost is $10,000. When the bike rack and map shelter was built, it wasn't stained or painted, so it's being weathered fairly well. Still holding up in pretty good shape, but they would like to stain it to help preserve the wood and enhance the look. The stonework over by the store is starting to fill in with dirt through the usual wear and tear of weather, and then they would like to put a mural to showcase the history of Metchosin to the visitors to the farmers market and museum. Money would be coming out of the business development reserve, so no taxes for that regard. A couple pictures on the back that go along with the report. This was brought to my attention through Councillor Donaldson and blanking on the guy's name.
So I just want to clarify the request for the bike rack, the map shelter, and the bus shelter, and the stonework is to come out of the business fund, whereas the mural is not. The mural has nothing to do with the business community, and in speaking with Mr. Brendan, he also had queried that with me as it needs to be separate. I believe that the mural comes out of the Museum Society. The business reserve is from our commercial core businesses who actually pay a different tax that goes into the reserve. So I think that needs to be taken out of there. As far as that budget item goes, it's separate. So you might want to confirm that with him, but that's my recollection. Councillor?
I guess I think this is a really good use of the money from the Business Development Reserve because it hasn't been used for a few years, and it's something that I think we've talked about really, making the kind of our destination or improving our village core area. I think this is one way that really fits with the strategic plan in that aspect. But I don't really understand why the mural couldn't be included in that. Is there any particular reason? I mean, it seems like it's all part of the same thing that would beautifies the downtown core.
I agree with you. However, when it was explained to me that had to be separate. I remember that from a previous year.
Steve,
Councillor Gray? Councillor Gray, do you have a comment?
Steve, do you have a comment about the mural or the bike rack?
like the idea. I wonder about the cost.
At the cost of 10,000, you don't like the cost, but you like the idea?
I like the idea. I'm thinking it will probably come in at much lower cost, but I don't know.
Councillor Shukin.
Thanks very much. I just want to echo what Councillor Epp had said. This is, I think, a very good use coming out of the Business Development Reserve. As I last looked, there was $63,000 in that fund, and it has not been used, as I understand it, for quite some time. The money and the projects that are being put forward here are basically to care for what we have already, so it doesn't make sense to kind of let them decay and decay. And the one thing also, just to point out, that this is coming from a reserve rather than, you know, a grant or anything like that. So it's money that taxpayers have bumped in over the years, be they business taxpayers or not. But again, this is a reserve that's been built up over time. So,
I agree with you.
Yeah.
It's the semantics that was explained to me, that it's specific that those businesses reap the benefits of the extra tax. They pay a lot more tax than our other societies who fundraise.
So overall, I speak in support. So the question on the mural, very much appreciate Mr. Brennan's work, seen it all over, and of course, Mr. Brennan did the whale in the middle of the gym. Do we know if we have the support of the Museum Society in terms of the mural?
I believe he's now involved with the Museum Society.
Okay.
So, I don't know. Staff would probably have a better idea of that, but I know that was something they had talked about 2 years ago, about the time we actually came to office. And now they have a little bit change up in their executive, and they're going forth on some of the projects from back then and put them in place. So I'm assuming they do if it came to us like this. Yes. Mayor Little.
Yeah, thank you. I'm in favor of this as well. We're very lucky to have talented artists in the community that can help us with these projects. And also, it's not a lot of money, and we simply can't be a council that lets our assets just degrade. And we've seen that with other projects that we've talked about tonight. You just can't let things degrade, and then it costs you a whole lot of more money. I think this will be well spent and well appreciated by the business community. So I would vote in favor of a motion.
Okay, so motion from Mayor Little. Is there a seconder to that? Councillor Epp, any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
In favor.
Thank you, and it's carried. Okay. I think that's it. Yes? Councillor Shukin.
Before Councillor Donaldson, before Mr. Creek leaves us, can I just ask both you and him and Mr. Pyatt, what is next in terms of our upcoming budget meeting, sir?
Mr. Creek.
Through the chair. So right now, we're just going through year end, getting everything posted for the expenses for 2024. I would like to come back in February when everything's done, present the fourth quarter and year-end report showing the surplus for the year. Then we can make some final choices on how you want to allocate the surplus, to what reserves, what projects going forward. And then I'll come back with some better numbers with the estimated tax increase, because we did get the new information from BC assessment. And then that'll be kind of the beginning of the end for it all.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so now we can move on to the opportunity to give the public some input. Or yes, Mr. Creek?
I just answer some of the questions from earlier.
Sure,
that I did
please.
not do at the start. From Jim, in regard to who is paying for the gas line, if that has to be replaced or removed or something. I heard through a conversation with Councillor Gray that it would be the responsibility of the district. We can finalize that answer though, something to make sure if we can get any money out of Fortis for it. For the Duke Road East Trail, there's nothing in the capital right now, as the project hasn't actually been approved to be done. We're going to be doing a study here in 2025, but that's not capital related, so I didn't put it into the capital budget plan for 2025. In the questions regarding the school, how much we paid, don't have the exact number. It's like 1.571 million, 1.517 million, something around there. We did not take a mortgage for it. The district borrowed its from its own reserve.
I just want to mention to Ms. Reimer, your earlier question is being answered. You might want to repeat what you were just saying.
Okay. So the district paid 1.5 million for the school back in 2017. We didn't get a mortgage. The district borrowed from its own reserves to pay for the school. So right now, the district is paying back $42,500 per year. And since 2017, I think it's just over $236,000 has been repaid. So somewhere in the ballpark of 1.2, 1.3 is still outstanding. We're amortizing the school at about $55,000 per year. And the return on investment has been, based on the assessed value of it, the value has gone up. And even with all the quote operating expenses from 2017 till the end of 2024, the district has earned just $438,000. And it turns, that's about a return on investment of about 3.2% in that time. So, but happy to answer more questions for it if you want to give me a call. But that's all I got for there.
Thank you very much. Committee, I just ask that when we're speaking, we try to be mindful to turn our mics off, because there is a bit of a feedback when we have an additional mic going. So if anybody from the public would like to share some input at this time, this is a good time to come to the mic, state your name and the street, and make sure you're about 8 to 12 inches from the mic. It does move up and down for your height, so feel free.
I think I'm plenty loud.
Okay.
Avril on Windfall Road. Something I'm not sure if that was covered is the engineer report on the septic at the school. Did he inspect it, and when?
Staff, do we have any information on that? Last year.
And is it last year he was saying we're good for 10 years? I'm asking because of Mile Zero, the original inspection. Mile Zero wasn't there for the brewery. So is that taken into account for the septic? Did it come through on an agenda? Because I probably got that. But it's been done last year. You're positive. I'm going to hold you to that. I'll send you an email. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Jim McPherson, Eagle Tree Place. Just a couple points, particularly with regard to the electric vehicle. I was noticing on CBC on the Power and Politics program this afternoon, apparently the federal government is rapidly running through and will not be extending the federal grants for electric vehicle purchases. The comment was also made that BC's is also coming to an end. So the grant system for EVs is history. The other thing which I did want to comment on, and I'm going to rely, I suppose, on my past history as president of the Museum Society. quite frankly, I can't think of a more useless project than painting that mural on the side of the Pioneer Museum in a place which is under the overhang, except for the farmer's market, which every stall is used so that nobody can see what's behind on the wall. Nobody goes down there. So unless we're looking for gainful employment for a few artists, quite frankly, I see absolutely no purpose in this. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else in the gallery have something to say first, please?
Okay, June Reimer. I'm just going to add that it was interesting that you brought up possibly using personal vehicles, because before that came up and you were talking, I have some good friends that have a little electric vehicle, but they can't drive it now because they're waiting a few weeks to get the headlight that isn't working. But electric's great to go. But I was wondering before you brought it up that maybe we could give mileage and gas and whatever, and people use their own for a little while if that one's wearing out. Or I'm also with you that holding on to vehicles and reusing them sometimes isn't a better idea. Anyway, just thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Little?
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that it's not for council. We go to many meetings a day, but we never have we never have mileage, and we don't use the municipal van or the truck. So it's not for council. This would be for staff. Yeah. Thank you.
Anybody else? Now we've got time.
Actually, I agree with Jim on the mural, quite frankly. And what I'd like to know is a bulk water station. How many people are you anticipating this will serve?
I don't have the numbers on that, but I certainly could ask at the Water Commission, who did have some stats provided at the last meeting based on their other stations and projections for the future.
And where will this station go?
So there are maps of some concept drawings, 2 locations, and they're pretty much in the same neighborhood because they have studied areas with accessibility to water trucks and vehicles being able to get in, and they'd be in the Lombard Road area and the William Head Road area. That's at this time. No decisions have been made yet.
Okay. Have you got specific areas, or this is just general?
Those are the 2 areas that the Water Commission has cited as possibilities. It does need to be municipal properties, so boulevards or this property, but they have to be large enough and not be blocked by residents' driveways, hydrant activity, that sort of thing. So they do need to be able to come in and out appropriately.
To Mayor Ballard, I'm Chosen resident. I was wondering if there was a public document on the bridge inspections for around Chosen. If there is, where would I find that?
Yeah, that could be public, I guess, or could be freedom of information request. We do have a report on the bridges.
Okay, any other questions before we wrap it up?
The water stations. I know we spoke about when we had a water meeting, that there was a possibility of having them. So has something happened in between? Because there wasn't any more meetings. We're actually
Yeah, it's come before the different meetings here in this room to position a bulk water station in Metchosin. The closest one is Henry Ang Way, which is in the city of Langford, and the next one is East Sioux.
Yeah, I remember that. I was just talking about it the other day to someone else.
Yes, so the Water Commission has asked if we would be partners with them in this. So we, as Mr. Creek has suggested in the agenda here this evening, that we will put 50% towards that, and it'll come out of a climate action grant that we were awarded that has a time limit on, so we need to use it up. So it falls within the time that it will be constructed.
Will there be more input into where? I think it's great. I mean, we do need it, although I mostly need river water.
Yeah, the discussion for the site is with staff, our staff, the commission staff, where I sit on a board, so hopefully I'll have a little bit of input as well, representing the constituents. So if you have anything you want me to relay back to them, I certainly will do that.
I just remember when we talked that some of these lineups were very, very long. The big trucks came in, and if there's only 2 of them. So I'm just thinking wherever you are thinking, if it affects the market or affects the parking at the school or whatever, it might have to be a much bigger idea.
Especially
and is there going to be input for people when it comes to that?
Through your local councillor, yes.
Perfect, thank you.
Thanks.
Kiara Kahakawila, Perry Crossroad. Sorry, I didn't do that last time. In regards to the bulk water, it's a really intriguing idea. I'm assuming the commission has concept costs for the maintenance of the site and the structure. Has that been shared with council?
So the average maintenance cost for all of them is about $5,000 a year.
Okay,
the commission takes care of.
Sounds good. A couple of things. Just some general comments. The RFP process for the 3 options for Flesh Road Bridge is a great idea. It will give you the information that you need in order to move forward with a decision one way or the other without any strings attached as an RFP. In regards to the vehicle purchase, just some notations from my experience having electric vehicles in our fleet. If you are going to buy an electric vehicle, I would not rely on what was said earlier about using the other charging stations. You will find if you have it as a municipal vehicle, you will need it charged and ready to go when you need to use it. And if you're relying on public charging stations, you're at the whim of anybody else who's parking there. And of course, your staff will have to walk back and forth, and there's time lost there as well. So there's just that to consider. With EVs, they are great vehicles when they're running. When they break down, finding the parts for them is difficult to get, and it's expensive to fix if they're not under warranty. Now, obviously, you're going to be buying new and it will be under warranty. However, there's still a significant time delay with any warranty work that you'll come into. I would suggest tracking mileage that your staff are using their vehicles for, and then at the end of the year, sort of do an analysis on that. Sorry, Jeffrey, and see if it actually makes sense to what it would be over a 3-year period to actually have a vehicle here that the staff could use versus using their own vehicles and being paid mileage out for it. And as for the van, sell it. It's outrun its useful life. Previous council was looking at selling it as well. It really does need to go. It's not solving any problems. It's not serving a direct purpose other than you're having to continually maintain it. At this point, sell it, put the money back into what you might be wanting to use later on for either EVs or another district vehicle.
Thank you. Okay, so I just want to acknowledge that we do have 2 pinks from residents who live in the Ferncliff Road area, pointing out their concerns of the Hall Bridge on Flesh Road, and I thank them for taking the time to write. It's appreciative that we do hear from our residents, so continue with writing and let us know your thoughts. Some people are very good at doing that, and it certainly keeps us on our toes too. But it is very important to hear what our constituents have to say. So with that, I'd like to call the meeting to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Shukin and second by Mayor Little. All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Have a good evening, everybody.